The story pretty much just began.
There are some people who think that you don't know what you are doing because you are a woman. If you are actually given a seat at the table, can you deliver?
I don't feel like I have gotten there yet. I have not arrived. I don't see myself as I have arrived. It's a process. I am looking forward to more. There's a long way ahead of me. Construction had always been the end goal.
What does it take a woman to rise from cleaning homes to building them? Hello, guys, welcome to Realty with JB. And today I'm honored to sit with a true woman of valor, an inspiring leader whose journey started as offering cleaning services. She then moved on to become a facility manager and a real estate broker. And today she's the CEO of BDZ Properties, a company that offers both construction and real estate agency services. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss Amoa. Please, how are you doing?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you doing?
Please, I'm good. There. So to kick things off, let me ask you, transitioning from offering cleaning services, you then moved to become a facility manager and a real estate broker. Now you're in construction. What's the story?
So, I would say that I started my business in 2013, right?
Okay.
And I would say that I'm not where I used to be, but there's a long way ahead of me. I feel like I have not gotten anywhere at all. You know, I still have a huge ambition. If I tell you about my plans, you will go crazy, you know. But I'm thankful to God for how far He has brought us as a company and me as a real estate person. You know, I'm thankful for all the awards that I've been able to bag, but I feel like that is what is going to propel me to the future and to achieve greater heights. Yeah. So just like you rightfully said, I started, you know, as a cleaning business, and then we evolved. Of course, you know, valuation. That's what I trained for. I'm a valuer, so we do that. And brokerage, of course. Once you do evaluation, people are like, "Oh, sell my property for me," you know, that kind of thing. And so that is how I got my brokerage attached. And then now construction. You know, construction had always been the end goal, like the finality for me. You know, starting venturing into real estate, I knew from day one that I want to go into mainstream construction. And by the grace of God, you know, I am here. But this is not the end of the story. There's a lot more that needs to be done, and there's a lot more on my plate, and I know that I'm going to achieve all of that.
By God's grace.
Amen.
Let me ask you, what made you venture into real estate?
I guess by training. So I went to KNEST.
Okay.
I had my degree in land economy, and then
So you're an economist.
land economist. You can put it that way.
Okay.
Then I proceeded to do my professional certification to be a certified valuation and estate surveyor.
Okay.
In simple terms, a valuer.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so by training, I think that is how I ventured into real estate. But then I actually did mainstream real estate through facilities management, just like your introduction said. So I started a cleaning business. And then from there, I became a broker. And then, of course, what I learned in school, valuation, and then now construction.
Okay, so before you pursued real estate, did you have a plan on focusing on any career path?
Not really. Actually, even to become a valuer, I just went it, you know. So I went to a big girls secondary school. I offered economics geography.
You went to Every Girls?
I did.
I also went to Presec.
Oh, right. Now I know the connection. Right. So I went to Every Girls. I did economics, geography, and French. And then we were told during one of these career, you know,
Opportunities.
Career engagements that when you do economics, geography, French, or economics, geography, elective maths, one of the best courses, most marketable and sought after courses was land economy at KNUST. So yeah, I just did it. I didn't even know what land economy was about. I just winged it, and then I ended up doing land economy, and then proceeded to become evaluation investor.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so real estate is a wild industry. So did you face any challenge entering the industry?
Not really. Not really. Well, it depends on what you say. What you mean when you say wild. Okay, I think that real estate is a growing industry. Everybody needs housing
Yes.
and services that has to do with housing. So whether cleaning, there are lots of disciplines when you take real estate into consideration. So there's a facilities management bit, there's the construction, mainstream construction bit, there's the brokerage, there's even law relating to real estate, there's there are even interior decor, they are all part of real estate. So back to your question. Yeah, so it is a growing industry.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody needs housing, and currently there's a deficit in housing, which we all know.
Yes.
And so housing will always be needed. That is how I view it. And so, yes, if you're talking about challenges, there are general challenges in the housing sector. If you take Ghana, for instance, there's the issue of land tenure, ownership of land, there's the issue of financing, there's economic downturns and the dollar dancing against the CD, making cost of construction, increase and all of that. These are all, challenges that are in the housing sector. But from where I come from or from where I sit and what I do, there are also certain peculiar, challenges with every sector, right?
Yes.
For instance, if I take cleaning and facilities management, there's a challenge of maybe managing staff. Sometimes nobody wants to be a cleaner forever. Sometimes managing them, is a bit tough. And then when you come to construction, there's the issue of stakeholder management. There's the issue of construction delays. There's the issue of even artisan management. That kind of thing. When you talk about valuation, okay, there's the issue of clients always challenging the valuation report. Everybody feels that their house or their property is worth $1 million. So when you present the reports, they challenge it, they want more, that kind of thing. So each sector has its own peculiar challenges.
And how do you go about these challenges?
So I believe that communication is key, okay, in every sector.
Yeah.
So you spell out what your expectations are, let's say in construction, before you engage a client, and the expectations are there, you spell it out to them. They have a very good understanding of, your deliverables, how you are going to deliver the project, and then everybody is on the same page. When the project is stalling, you keep them updated, on what is going on, in the area of, let's say, facilities management, cleaning, same, right? You communicate your expectation to the cleaners, you give them training, on what they have to do, how they have to deliver, in the area of valuation, it is the same, so you have to be able to communicate what your expectations are.
Okay, so when you face these challenges, have you ever thought of, I can't do this any longer, I just want to give up? I'm overwhelmed with the challenges.
I've come too far to even think about that. The challenges come, but you surmount it. I'm not one to give up easily. No, not at all. And so, the challenges will come, but you surmount it. You find ways of dealing with them, and then you move on.
Okay, so what strategies do you put in place to make sure that in this industry, it's very competitive, honestly. So what strategies do you put in place to become number one in it?
Well, so these are the practical things I do, right?
Okay.
I make sure that I update myself with trends in the real estate industry. I do a lot of research.
Okay.
I keep learning. Okay. Like I was telling you, after my degree, after my professional certification, I went back to school in 2023 to do a master's in facilities management. After practicing facilities management for, some years, So I make sure that I am updated with current trends, that kind of thing. And then also, I collaborate with others in the industry. I believe in collaboration a lot. You know what they say, that those are the top don't compete, they collaborate. I do that a lot, And so, I make sure that I have a solid team, right? A team that can deliver, So a good team, less issues, especially with the client. Yeah. And then there's the God factor. I'm a woman of faith. And so I do a lot of consultation with the Holy Spirit. I pray a lot. For every project, I commit it to God, and then I ask for direction. I always say that the Holy Spirit is a board member in my company. So yes, I do that. And then again, after every project, I take lessons learned. Sometimes things don't go well, and every project is a different. I view every project as a different, a new thing, where I get to learn something new, because projects are different. Yeah, so I take the lessons learned and then I use it in my next project.
Okay, so
that's what's working.
So guys, this is one advice I got from Miss Abba. Always learn. Keep on learning. Learning never stops. So let's move on to the next question. You're into construction. Everybody thinks it's a male-dominated industry, and you're a woman in construction. How do you feel?
I don't feel anything, really. I feel like I'm doing my job. I feel like I'm doing my job, just like a nurse would do their job, just like a banker would do their job. That's how I feel. Yes, you're right. Not a lot of women are into construction, and so sometimes I find myself, I feel alone, sort of. Let me put it that way.
So you face gender bias?
Not really. I do not. I do not. But sometimes, there are some people who think that you don't know what you're doing because you're a woman. So what I do and what I tell other women in real estate or in construction is that be so flat out fantastic about what you do that your talent cannot be dismissed. Okay. So let what you do prove the point. It's not what you say. Don't always wish to be, given a seat at the table. If you're actually giving a seat at the table, can you deliver?
Actually,
that is what I keep telling women who want to venture into male-dominated fields. I don't see real estate as a blue-collar job. When I say blue-collar job, you know what I mean. Some jobs are tagged pink-collar jobs, others are tagged blue-collar jobs.
Jobs.
Men and women. I don't see it that way. I feel I'm doing my job, and so that's it.
Okay, so you won an award last year, Woman of Valor. When you were going for the award, how did you feel? Your journey, your challenges, and you making it to take an award. What was the feeling like?
It was good. It was good, actually. So that was a She Achievers Awards that was held in Dubai.
Okay.
I won, and then the Pan African Real Estate Development, conferences and awards also held in Dubai. So the first one was Mr. Outstanding in property management, and then the second one was the first one was for my company, BDZ Properties, and then the second one was for me, was outstanding contribution to the real estate sector. It was exciting, and I, when I received the award, I said that usually they say we should mind our own business, but then it is not an insult. When you mind your own business, turns out that somebody may be watching. Exactly. And may nominate you for an award, and so that's what it is. I was honored, to receive the award, but it was like, how do I put it? Like, it was a challenge that was thrown at me, You know what they say, to whom much is given, much
Which
is
is expected.
expected.
Yeah.
So you won the award. Now what? You have to make sure that you up your game. You make sure that you exceed expectation. You go beyond. You don't want to receive an award
And sleep.
and sleep. Thank you. And so, yeah, that was a challenge for me.
Okay. So has it opened opportunities for you, the recognition?
Yes, it has. It has. Now, I'm visible. People, there was a time we got a contract to do evaluation job, and the client actually approached me and was like, listen, I have two quotes, but I'll go for you because I know that you're good at what you do. Once you've received an award, then, and I received an award for Best Valuer 2023, right? So the client was like, look, I know that once you received an award, that gives you a leverage above, your competitor. So yeah, it's been good. I've gained that recognition, and so it's been good. Yeah.
Okay. So how does social media help sell your brand out to people?
I don't know who is doing business now that doesn't have, or that's not on social media. I don't know who is not on social media, because that's like a great marketing tool now. Social media will take you places where ordinarily you cannot go. It gives you visibility. In fact, I was nominated because people checked my account on LinkedIn and saw what we're doing over the years, our contribution to the real estate sector and business activities and all of that. And a lot of people, how social media is going these days.
Everybody's watching.
Everybody is watching. People don't even have most
to
people,
follow
businesses.
You before they can. People don't have to follow you before they can watch your page.
Yes, and most businesses don't even have a physical, premises anymore. Like, they sell most of their stuff on social media, market, on social media, and so you can't do without it these days.
Okay, so let's move to the real estate investments aspects.
Okay.
What do you think is the biggest risk in investments?
Biggest risk. So I would say that real estate investment, right? Actually refers to engaging in real estate activities to generate some form of income for you, right? And a good real estate investment is one that gives you a high return on investment. And so I would say that anything that you do that will stifle your cash flow, or anything that you do that will give you negative returns, is a risk. That's how I see it, right? So, that before you go into real estate investment, you have to do some form of research. Know which area you are going into. There are different ways of investing into real estate, right? So do your research. Know the trends, okay, in the particular area that you want to invest. And so if you do not do that, chances are that you encounter problems and it will affect your ROI.
So let's move to the real estate investment aspect.
Right.
So what are the types of real estate investments you would recommend for people?
That is a serious question. So before anybody goes into real estate investment, I think that it is personal more than anything. I will not recommend A or B, but I can give an insight as to the different types or ways of investing in real estate. Okay, so you have to do your personal introspection based on your budget, how much you are willing to invest in real estate. You have to look at the purpose for the investment. All those things come to play before you decide what exactly you want to invest in. So it could be commercial real estate investments, where you build shops, where you build retail space like malls. It could be residential, where you build houses, and even at that, whether to sell or to rent, apartments, townhouses, all that residential abode. And then there is land, okay? Whether you decide to do land banking, okay? So people buy land and hold on to it, and then cash in on the appreciation. They leave it for a bit, and then it will appreciate definitely, and then they sell, and then they make their returns. Or in the area of land as well, you could do agriculture. So you can rent it out, the land, to people who engage in agriculture, and then they farm on it, and then if you have an arrangement, whether you split, whether they pay you rent. So those are the types of real estate investment. But even with the types, you could decide on what ways of going about it. Okay.
What would you recommend? Which one do you think is the best among the three?
No, that's what I'm saying, that I cannot sit here and say there's one that overrides the other, right?
Okay.
It all depends on the purpose. After you have done, before you enter into real estate, there's a lot of work that you have to do. Real estate investment is not sentimental. It goes beyond your sentiment, what you feel. No, you have to look at your yield. Okay, and a good way of deciding between two different real estate investments is to use what we call the capitalization rate. Okay, now the capitalization rate, or the cap rate, is calculated by projecting your rents, for rental properties. So let's say you're building an apartment, right, to rent out. Now you have to calculate how much you get in a year. So you do your research. What's the commanding rent in that neighborhood for, let's say, a 2-bedroom apartment? Then you multiply it by 12. That will give you an idea of how much you are getting for the year, isn't it? Now you look for the net NOI. Okay. Now with that, you subtract your expenditure. So you don't just go with the annual income, but you subtract the the expenditure, which is let's say property management services, property rates, insurance, all those things. And you even have to project periods of void, because sometimes you may not get an all-round occupation. There may be periods of vacancy, so you adopt a percentage. You subtract all that from the annual, the total gross rent for the year. Then you divide by the value of the property.
Okay.
It's usually expressed as a percentage.
Okay.
That becomes the capitalization rate.
Okay.
So a high capitalization rate signifies a high return. Okay. So you can do same for two different properties, and then you just choose which one has a high capitalization rate. That becomes a better investment over the other. Most of the time, there's a myth that the high-end areas like Ghana, the Cantonment, the Labonis, the East Legons, usually have a higher return on investment or capitalization, but it does not always turn out to be the case, because there are certain, the demand for the middle income areas are very high. The demand there, in fact, I keep saying that is where that 2 million housing deficit is. So there, the demand is very high. People are always looking for houses to rent and all of that. So vacancy rate is lower. The value of the houses are lower compared to higher rates. So sometimes you realize that when you compute the capitalization rates, the ones at the middle to low income areas are higher than the one in the high end areas. So you don't just get up and say that, because rental values at cantonment is high, automatically the yield or the capitalization rate is going to be high. No, you have to actually say that. That's why I'm saying that you can't get up and say that you recommend this over that. No. You understand what I mean?
Does location really play a part?
Always. You know what they say in real estate? Location. Yes. So where your location is determines the rent of the property. But then again, that's why I was saying that we shouldn't go with the myth that because the property is located in a high-end area, automatically the yield is going to be high.
Okay.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, so
The rents will be high, but the yield may not necessarily be high because there may be higher. You know, these areas usually there are higher periods of void.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so for someone getting to start real estate, what are the key advice you give to the person that hey, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do before the person invest in the real estate
In the
market?
real estate. Okay, so the number one do is to do your research, consult, speak to agents,
You know,
which
people,
areas.
people actually think the agents are there to take their money. All the agent wants to do is to take their commission. But no, we are here to help them.
Yeah,
That's why
that
people
is
don't
true.
understand.
That is true.
They don't know that we are here to help them.
Exactly, because the agents know the trends. Okay,
Exactly.
the agents know they can give you a broker price opinion. There's something we call broker price opinion, that will give you an idea, you know, of either a sale value or a rental value of a property.
Mhm.
Okay, so engage them, do your research, like I was saying about cap rates, compare investments. Okay, find out which one will give you a high ROI.
Okay.
Those are do's. That is the first thing you should do. Then you should consider your budgets.
Mhm.
Okay, your budget will determine what kind of investments you go into. You can't build a block of apartments with 100,000 Ghana cedis, right? So it all depends on your budget. Take a look at your budget and then decide where to go. You know, real estate is capital intensive. We all know that.
Yeah.
But then there are other ways of entering into real estate with little or no money. Okay, there are
Okay.
other ways. You can do house hacking, you know, where you stay in one part of your house and rent. If you don't mind people living with you, you market a portion. So then you don't start from scratch. You know, that is one aspect. There are, you know, real estate investment groups, you know, crowdfunding.
Yeah.
People come together to own. That way the risk is shared. Okay, so there are other. That is another topic. Let me stay on track. I digress. So, if you want to start real estate, like I was saying,
Yeah.
do your research.
Yes.
Look at your budgets. Engage professionals. Okay, depending on the type of real estate you want to do. If you're building to sell, okay, you have to engage professionals through and through from start to finish. So at the land acquisition stage,
Mhm.
you have to do your search.
Okay.
And by doing your search, you don't just take a site plan from the owner of the property. Engage a surveyor who will go to the site to pick the points, do the search at the appropriate body, whether lands commission, whether state housing, wherever, so that you are sure that you are buying from the right owner. Okay, do your search and find an architect who can design right
Okay.
for you. Find a good construction company like BDZ Properties who will do the building for you. And once the building has been put up, look for licensed agents to sell for you. So use professionals through and through, and it's going to go a long way to help you. So those are some of the things that you have to consider
Okay.
if you want to venture into real
Okay.
estate, depending on which area you want to,
So-
to go.
Assuming I have $150,000 right now, what property do you think I can get for? Or maybe I want to rent out to people. $150,000.
And when you say what property do I think that you can get, I don't really.
I want to get an apartment
Mhm.
and rent out to people.
Get as in buy.
Buy an apartment
Okay.
with $150,000. What will I get?
An apartment. If you want to buy an apartment with $150,000, you could. It's a good start for an Airbnb. Okay, if you're looking at the high end areas. Okay, so you can get a studio or one bed in any of the
Prime locations.
prime locations, whether Jowlu, whether
East
Roman
Legon.
Ridge, whether East Legon, whether
Cantonment.
cantonments, yes. And then you can rent it out as Airbnb, short lets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some financial options available for this kind of investments?
So in real estate investment, when you want to finance, usually it's either equity or debt. Okay.
Mhm.
When I say equity, it means your retained earnings. Okay. Capital that you have built or accumulated over time, whether through your savings or gifts or anything of the sort, or your equity in terms of maybe a joint venture, right? So that if you have land, you can approach another person who has the finances, okay, and you can decide to come together in a joint venture and then put up a building, right? And so then your equity is the land, their equity is the amount that they are bringing in. So that is one way. When we are talking about debts, we are talking about funding from the banks, borrowing, okay, and mortgage. And these days, what I've realized is that Ghanaians, because of the high interest rates, most Ghanaians don't like using debts to finance their projects. Mostly, it's either the retained earnings, joint venture, or sometimes buying off plan. Some developers do that. So they take monies from prospective buyers. They show you the concepts that they want to put up, and then but usually it's cheaper for the one who intends to buy, and then it works for the one who is the developer as well, because then it gives them some finance, some cushion to start off the project. Exactly. So it becomes a win-win. But a word of advice I'll put out there is that before you buy a property off plan, make sure that this particular developer has a track record, because there's a risk of developers taking your money and not delivering. So you have to make sure that you engage somebody who has a track record, so that you get your money's worth.
Okay. So how do you evaluate a potential investment property?
How do you evaluate a potential investment property? It must be in a good location. Okay, it must. And you see, usually when we say location, people always say, when we say good location, people always look at, again, the high end areas. But in investments, the choice of a good location depends on the purpose of the investment. So the last time I was saying that if, for instance, you want to build hostels, right? Your location should not necessarily be the high end areas. It could be if you have a school close by, but a place like Medina would be a very good location for investing in hostels, because there's UPSA, which is close by. And so the tendency is that when you put up the hostels, they would occupy, and then you get a good return on your investment. So yes, that's how you spot, that's how you evaluate a good potential. So find your purpose, and then look at the location. Is it close to social amenities? Is it close to
the road?
How's the road network like? Is it accessible? Because if it's a rental property, people would not want to drive on bad roads. They want places close to the schools, that kind of thing. So these are all things that you have to look out for before you venture into it.
So what are the common mistakes clients make when investing into real estate?
Oh yeah, so these are some of the things I was talking about. Not doing their due diligence, as in not doing their search, making sure they are buying for the right owner, not using professionals, Okay, these are common mistakes people make not using professionals, and again, not you know taking tenants' needs into consideration.
Okay.
That's a very important point, because if you are putting up what do you call it, a property. Let me take that again. Not taking the client's needs into consideration. Okay, that's a mistake, because if, for instance, you are putting up a commercial space, people are so um enthused about how high the building is, how many rooms, without taking into consideration, for example, parking space.
Okay.
Okay, I know of a property like that somewhere in Accra where the investor put up so many floors of a commercial property, but on 70 by 100
Wow.
land, and people who are coming into the building will need a place to park, that kind of thing. So you have to take into consideration the needs of the
The
tenants. Yes, if you are building apartments, you know that families are going to be there, so give them, if it's a playground for children, make provision for that, certain amenities, food,
Okay.
that will make the property desirable for whoever is coming for it. So look at the property you are putting up there. Look at the needs of the
Okay.
tenants that you are hoping to take up the property.
So do you have something like poor timing in real estate investing? Like this time it's not the time to invest in this kind of
Time is a good time to invest in real estate. Just have to make sure that you are getting a good return on your investment. Property will always be in demand. There's always the need for housing, there's always the need for commercial space for businesses and all of that. So every time is a good time to invest in real estate.
Okay, so can real estate be used as a way to generate passive income? Let's say I'll buy this apartment, I'll rent it out, and it be a passive income. Can it be used for that kind of purpose?
It can. Passive income from real estate simply means, investing in it without being actively involved. Okay. And I talked about crowdfunding earlier on. Yeah. So we call it real estate there's real estate investment groups where a group of people come together. In fact, there are some developers in Ghana who do that. So they have apartments for sale,
Okay.
and they make it available for two or more people to own the apartment, and then they manage it on behalf of the owners. They call it fractional ownership, right? So in that case, you just buy the apartment. If the apartment is, say, $150,000 and it's owned by three people, that means each person is paying how much? $50,000, right? So then you make the payment, and then you leave it for the developers to manage it for you. So whatever returns that accrue on it, it is split among the number of people who own it. That is passive income right there. You are not really actively involved in managing the property. A more formalized form is real estate investment trusts. Okay, those ones are floated like shares on the stock market, and so there to you make returns without actively involving yourself in it. And I talked about land.
Land.
Yes, investing in land as well. So if you give it out for farmlands, the farmers will be the one working on it,
Okay.
and then you get your returns. So you're not directly involved. So those are ways of.
So short term and long term rentals like Airbnb, what are the pros and cons?
Well, so essentially, the short-term rentals or the Airbnb is usually more lucrative, okay, than the long-term rentals. Yeah, but again, with the long-term rentals, there's security. You know that if somebody takes up your space for 1 year or 2 years, they are going to be in there. But for Airbnb, take it for like a week, a month. That there will be periods of void. But then generally it's more lucrative than the long term. And then also there's the issue of taking care of the space. For long term, if you have a tenant who takes up the place for a year, 2 years, you know that they will take care of maybe whatever it is, managing the place, But then, if you're looking at Airbnb, property management has to be top notch because every time somebody is moving out, the place has to be, it's like a hotel. The place has to be cleaned, has to be made tenantable for the next person to occupy. So those are some of the differences.
How does property appreciation works and what impact does it have on the investment?
Right. So you know what we always say, that real estate is a hedge against inflation.
Yeah.
Okay. And what that means is that when there's inflation, which is increase in general prices of goods and services, real estate, also goes up. So then it works to the advantage of somebody who owns real estate. And so that is essentially what it is. So it keeps increasing, But and so if you have a rental property, right? What I keep telling real estate investors is that don't be in a rush to get short-term returns, because you get cash flow over time. As you are getting cash flow out of the property is also appreciating, right? So that, let's just say you bought a property for $100,000 today, 2025, and you use it as a rental property. You'll be getting a steady income flow out of it for, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, okay? But after 10 years, this property you bought for $100,000 today will not be $100,000. It would have appreciated in value.
Exactly.
So that is how it appreciates over time. You will still be getting your cash flow from it, but then it will be appreciating in value. But there's a myth out there, properties don't automatically appreciate. It's a property that is well maintained that appreciates.
Yes.
Yeah, land will always appreciate, but the property on the land has to be well maintained in order to appreciate. In valuation, we take into consideration depreciation. When we are valuing any property, okay, we look at the value of the land, like a residential property. There's a method that we use called the depreciated replacement cost method. And we take into consideration the value of the land. Then we take into consideration the structure. Okay, we compute the structure, and then we take out depreciation. So if your property is heavily depreciated, the value will come down. So yes, we say real estate is a hedge against inflation, but it's not automatic that it will always.
You see, this conversation, a house and a car. House appreciates, the car depreciates.
Right.
But when you maintain the house very well, to move higher than your expectation, and people are in a rush to just rent out the property and take some $100, $150.
Exactly.
That's what is affecting the market right now.
People are just excited about getting the cash flow, but they are not quick to maintain the property.
Forgetting that the house is always there.
Exactly.
Maybe some fire will come and burn it down. That's when, then it hardly happens when you maintain the house very well. When you take precautions very well, it hardly happens that fire outbreak will happen in the house. And when fire outbreak happens like this, how does insurance help cover these kind of costs?
So, if you have a property manager, okay, the kind of property that has a property manager, they are responsible for all. That's why you cannot have, apartment. Some property owners want to do everything by themselves because they don't want to part with some money for the property manager. And so, if you have a property manager, they take all that. I always say that having a property manager is living a hassle-free life because they'll take care of everything. Okay. We have properties that we manage, and so we do. In fact, when a tenant moves out, we find a new tenant for the property. We do sweeping of common area, we call it common area maintenance. We do security. We make sure that there's 24-hour security at the premises. We make sure that there's maintenance of stuff like lift, elevator, the gen sets, all of that. And then we make sure that there's planned maintenance. Okay, there's planned maintenance. If you do your planned maintenance well, it does not lead to unplanned maintenance.
Okay.
Okay, and so if you have to, we have times where, let's say you are talking about fire, that's why I'm going there. So we have times, scheduled times, when an electrician will come and service everything, make sure that everything is working, so that there's no issue of electrical malfunction that can cause, fire outbreak, stuff like that. And so if you do that, your property is safe. If you allow a property manager to take up the space and manage it on your behalf, the property is safe and better managed than one that is not.
Okay.
Right. So with the issue of fire, like you raised, sometimes accidents could lead to fire outbreaks.
Okay.
But the best thing to do is to insure your property against fire. Usually, property owners don't do that. And this is wrong. Every property has to be insured against fire. Usually, the owners of the property insure the building, and then the tenants insure the contents of the property. So it has to be done so that in case of a fire outbreak, you get some cushion.
Okay, so how does taxes affect the overall profitability of real estate investments?
It shouldn't really. So you should take into consideration your taxes. That's what I was saying earlier on, that factors to consider when entering into real estate investment is one of them is to consider expenses. Don't ignore that, because that is what you subtract from. Don't be so excited about what is coming at the end of the month, compute it for the year and say, this is my income. No, you have to take out property rates. You have to take out, all the other things like insurance that we talked about, all taxes that you need to pay on the property. Take them out. So even before you enter into the investment, you would have taken that into consideration before you compute your yield or how much you earn. So it shouldn't really affect your return on investment. You should have taken that into consideration before venturing.
So what kind of qualities will make a good property manager?
Yeah, so a good property manager is one that has a track record, I should say.
So his experience is better.
Experience is always better. Experience is one who is also knowledgeable, about the real estate space. Okay. One who is upbeat with trends. Okay. They know, they can advise on pricing also affects how long a property stays on the market. Our company, for instance, we've had instances where, some owners consult us, want to rent their property and state the price that they are looking for. You don't know what informed they get up and decide that we want X amount, and then we advise them that, look, this is a bit above the market value. And so if you can, based on our experience and expertise and from our valuation background as a firm, maybe we give them an idea of how much they should charge. But sometimes some of them are adamant and, they decide to stick. For us, if you are that kind of person, you go with that. But then after a while, they realize that the property sits on the market for a long time. Nobody's taking it up. And then they come back to us and say, oh, remember the price that you talked about? I think that we should go for that. So pricing has to do with everything to do with how long a property stays on the market. So if you have a good property manager, he'll be able to tell you that, look, this is the price that you should charge. If you go by it, that would work for you. Again, you should look at, like I was saying, somebody who is well versed in the industry, one who belongs to, an association where, they can do benchmarking, solicit for ideas, stuff like that. I belong to the International Facilities Management Association. It's an international body for facilities managers or property managers. These two words are used interchangeably: facility manager, property manager,
Manager.
but they are basically
They
the
perform the same
thing.
task.
Basically, yeah. So yes, so look for people like that who have a track record, who have experience,
Okay.
who are knowledgeable, in the field of real estate.
Okay. Is it better for investors to manage their own properties or look for a property manager?
Again, like you remember what I told you?
Yes, you mentioned
Like
it earlier.
outsourcing. You see, the thing is that you are a real estate investor, somebody who has money to spend, and you are looking for returns on the investment. Somebody's job is also to manage the property. They have acquired the skills to be able to do that, to ensure that you have a high return. A bad property management culture can affect your ROI.
Exactly.
So, if somebody's profession is to learn how to manage your property to have a high return on investment, why don't you let them do that? It's always better. It saves you.
A lot of money.
It saves a lot of. They think we are spending money,
Exactly.
but then it saves you. And that's why you have to get a good one, a good property manager, and then it will save you a lot of headache.
So how can people outside the country, the diaspora, benefit from the real estate market?
Well, they have a lot to gain. They have a lot to benefit if they invest in real estate in Ghana. Ghana is one of the country, if not, I think, if my memory serves me right, the last time I checked, I think Ghana is the country in Africa with the highest yield on rental properties. And so tell the diaspora people that they should all come and invest in
December in Ghana.
I know, right? I know. So they should all come and invest in real estate. I think that our yield now is around 12% or so in real estate. So yeah.
That's annual.
Annual yield, yes. So by all means they should come, but then again, all the points that we raised earlier on, they should do their research. They should do their research to let them know whether they are doing Airbnb, whether they are doing long-term rentals, that kind of thing. And they should do their due diligence. There are people who live in the diaspora who buy property here in Ghana without any physical inspection. That is wrong. I keep saying that before you buy any property, make sure that you visit the property at least once. If you are in the diaspora, make sure that you schedule your vacation around the time when you are buying, so that at least come and see it once. Don't just leave it, to family members, to take that decision for you. Sometimes certain pictures they take don't reflect the true picture. There have been instances whereby clients complain to me, that this is now the emerging area, things are going on well here, that kind of thing. You get a high ROI. They come back and it's not the case.
Okay.
So they have to make sure that they research, they do their due diligence, they visit the property at least once to know what they are actually putting their money into.
Okay, so what if I hire a real estate broker so that the person will send me pictures and everything, the videos of the building, how the building looks like? Would I need to come to Ghana again to have a physical look?
Sure, that is an investment. You're committing money to it, so you have to treat it with all the seriousness. A real estate agent, some real estate. In fact, if you don't engage a professional, okay, some of the real estate agents will be so excited about the commission they are getting, and they may want to sell you anything. And so, if you're investing money, you have to commit to it. You have to calm down, have a look at what you're getting before you make payments. Do your due diligence, do your searches, that kind of thing. That's what I will advise. You can't sit outside of Ghana and make a purchase. I think that is not right.
To become a real estate broker, what kind of certification or qualification do you need to become one?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's the Real Estate Agency Council, which is in charge of real estate brokerage.
Okay.
A law has been passed, where you have to write exams, go through training, write exams, and then you come out as a qualified real estate agent or broker. Yeah, and so that's the directive. But we organize my team. I have a team that organizes trainings, periodic trainings in real estate and for real estate brokers. Last year we had a very successful real estate camp. Okay, it was a 2 day certification event. We partner with Ghana Association of Real Estate Brokers, GAREB, and so we train people to become real estate brokers. What we did last year at the 2 day intensive program was a masterclass session, and then that was for day one, where we taught real estate brokers the rudiments, for real estate brokerage, stuff like that, real estate marketing, branding, and then on the second day, it was a field day where we went to the field, we went to see some properties, the participants asked challenging questions. We were taking around on how to do even a tour. You'll be surprised. Some people don't know how to tour clients on a property, So it was very exciting. The turnout was great, yeah. But I believe that it shouldn't be real estate brokerage in Ghana shouldn't be a free for all kind of thing. Sometimes if somebody is not doing well in their field, they're like, oh, then let me be an agent. It's like that easy space where if things are not panning out, you can just, but it shouldn't be like that. We encourage professionalism. So there's also, like I was saying, the Ghana Association of Real Estate Brokers, where, you become, when you join, you become a professional broker. You're able to exist in the real estate space as a broker.
So guys, if you want to become a real estate broker, Miss Abba will be organizing a bootcamp very soon. So stay glued to our channel. We'll keep you updated on the dates. So you're into construction.
Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming projects for your clients or in the name of BDZ Properties?
Yes. So BDZ Properties have partnered with Raptor Africa and for the construction of affordable housing, 2-bedroom affordable housing. That's a BDZ Raptor Africa development, and so that is ongoing at Richley Michelle Camp. The goal is to build about 100 units. We want to contribute our own quota towards solving the housing deficit. So we targeted, we moved into affordable housing, and so some of them are completed. So it's on the market selling for 50,000 USD or the steady equivalent, very cheap, or let me say very affordable, and so that is currently ongoing. And then also we have our 20-unit apartment project at Lashibi. That is for a client. They are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. I'm very excited about that project also, because it's at a good location. And it has, nice amenities over there. There's going to be a pool, there's going to be a gym, and all of that. That's also ongoing. And then we have a refurbishment project going on for a school. And then lastly, a commercial project at Tema, Community 1, that we're working on.
So before we wrap up, I would love for you to share a piece of advice with our audience. What would it be?
I encourage women to also venture into real estate. It's not a man's world like they put it out there. But if you are a woman who is interested in real estate, don't create barriers around yourself. By all means, go into real estate. Let it not be said that the only women who are found at construction sites are women who come to sell food to the construction workers. And in doing that, don't just be counted among the numbers, but make sure you build capacity. Make sure you receive the necessary training. Make sure you actually excel in your field.
So speaking of purpose, I think it should align with God's plan for you. And that's the way to. So how do we connect with you?
Right. So on LinkedIn, I'm Abba Amoa, ABAOMOA without an H. On Instagram, it's also Abba Amoa 1. Facebook, it's Amoa. And you can contact BDZ Properties. We do evaluation of properties. We do property sales and rentals. We do, of course, cleaning services. And then we do construction of properties. So you can contact us at 2 Johnny O Avenue at West Legon, close to Kimpa. That's where our physical presence is. And you can call us on 0597111222 or 0241525294. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@bdzproperties.com.
All right, thank you very much. So, amazing viewers, be sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss another episode on Realty with JB. Until next time, remember, think real estate, think JB. Thank you.